Before the world opens its eyes, before the sun stretches across the sky, and before any obligations begin to pull you into motion, there is a sacred space, a moment between sleep and wakefulness where the breath is deep. In that moment, there is no past and no future, only the stillness of now. This is where the day truly begins, not on the clock, not on the schedule, but within the mind. To begin in stillness is to claim sovereignty over your life. It is a choice, a discipline, a practice of returning to what is most essential. Before you check your phone, before you open your door, return to yourself. The world will pull you in 1,000 directions, but you must decide where to root your awareness. Stillness is not inactivity, it is depth. In the silence of morning, your thoughts are pure. They are not yet colored by noise, by demands, by expectations. You are closest to your true self in that moment, untouched by the external. And it is in that very space where you plant the first seeds of the day. If you do not anchor yourself in stillness, the day becomes a storm, and you are blown by every gust of emotion and reaction. But if you begin grounded, no matter what chaos unfolds, you do not lose yourself. Stillness gives birth to clarity, and clarity gives birth to purpose. To begin your day in stillness means to pause and listen, not to what the world says, but to what your inner self whispers. These whispers are not loud, they are not urgent, but they are wise. If you do not become still, you cannot hear them. You cannot hear your own intentions, your own values, your own inner compass. The breath becomes the gateway. You follow it in, and you return home. You allow the breath to bring light into the corners of the mind where fear and restlessness often live. You allow yourself to observe without judgment how the mind begins to move. And from this place of deep observation, you become the master of your thoughts instead of their servant. To begin in stillness is not a technique, it is a commitment. Commitment to not abandon yourself in the first hour of waking. It is easy to be pulled outward, easy to be reactive, easy to forget. But in the quiet morning, you have the chance to remember who you are beneath your roles, your goals, your responsibilities. Stillness is the invitation to be present with your humanity before you wear the armor of identity. There is power in simplicity, to sit, to breathe, to be aware. Nothing more is needed. In that space, the world is as it is. You are not rushing to fix it or control it. You are simply allowing yourself to arrive. Many people wake up and run, not physically, but mentally. They run into worry, into obligation, into the endless cycle of doing. But what if you paused? What if you chose stillness first? Then you would not be running, you would be moving with awareness. And awareness is strength. The most powerful actions come from the deepest silence. When you start the day anchored in stillness, your movements are not reactions, they are responses. You are not pulled by the current, you choose where to go. You do not drown in urgency, you float above it, knowing what truly matters. Begin in stillness and your energy becomes refined. You do not leak it into unnecessary distractions. You channel it into what is essential. One conscious breath is more powerful than 1,000 unconscious steps. In that breath, there is peace. In that breath, there is discipline. In that breath, there is life. Each morning, ask yourself, have I returned to myself before I give myself to the world? Have I honored this moment before rushing into the next? Have I remembered the value of silence before entering the noise? To begin in stillness is to honor the rhythm of life. All great movements start from stillness. A wave begins from calm water. A tree grows from unmoving soil. You are no different. Begin with the pause, and you carry the strength of nature within you. Begin in stillness, and you become unshakable. The mind will try to pull you forward. The body may resist the quiet. But with patience, you return again and again. The reward is not in what you get, but in what you become. You become rooted. You become balanced. You become deeply aware, and this awareness is your greatest protection against the distractions of the world. From this stillness, speak only what is true. From this stillness, act only with purpose. From this stillness, live not just another day, but a deeper life. The moment you open your eyes, you are given a choice. The choice to lead your mind or to follow it blindly. The choice to speak to yourself with intention or to be spoken to by fear, distraction, or doubt. Awakening self-command is the art of taking responsibility for your internal world before the external world dictates your direction. It is the difference between wandering aimlessly through the day or walking with clarity, intention, and strength. Every morning, the mind begins again. And if you do not guide it, it will drift toward habit, often shaped by fear, worry, and repetition. But with awareness, you interrupt that drift. You take hold of the reins. You do not wait to feel inspired. You do not wait for perfect circumstances. You lead yourself with words that are aligned with your values, with your vision, with your truth. The dialogue you create within is more important than any external conversation you will have. What you say to yourself sets the tone of your emotions, your posture, your actions. If your inner voice is weak, uncertain, or negative, then your life will reflect that. But when your inner voice is strong, clear, and grounded in purpose, then every action becomes a reflection of your strength. Discipline does not begin with action. It begins with language. It begins with the words you repeat. And these words must not be chosen carelessly. They must be chosen with attention. They must come from stillness and not reaction. When you say to yourself, I am calm, it is not because you feel calm. It is because you are reminding the body how to return to that state. When you say, I act with purpose, it is not because you are already in motion. It is because you are setting the direction for your next step. Self-command is not about controlling everything. It is about guiding your focus. You cannot stop every thought. You cannot eliminate every emotion, but you can choose which ones you follow and which ones you let pass. You can decide which inner voices to feed and which to starve. The morning is a ritual of returning to that choice. It is a sacred moment to affirm who you choose to be before the noise of the world tells you otherwise. And this affirmation is not a loud performance. It is a quiet discipline. You do not need to shout. You do not need to convince anyone else. You simply speak to yourself with truth, with consistency, and with faith. You remind yourself of your values. You remind yourself of your priorities. You remind yourself that you are not a machine responding to every stimulus, but a conscious being capable of shaping your reality from the inside out. When you wake up, ask yourself, what am I building today? What energy do I want to embody? What truth do I want to carry through every task? Then speak it. Speak it even if it feels distant. Speak it even if doubt whispers back. Because with repetition, your inner voice becomes your foundation. It becomes your anchor in chaos. It becomes your guide through uncertainty. And eventually, the words you say to yourself will become the thoughts you believe, the emotions you feel, and the reality you live. Awakening self-command means you no longer wait for motivation. You no longer rely on the world to push you. You become your own force. You become the voice that says, get up. You become the voice that says, keep going. You become the voice that says, this moment is mine. And in becoming that voice, you become free, free from the need for constant approval, free from the chains of distraction, free from the patterns of delay and hesitation. Every morning you are given this freedom, but you must claim it. You must earn it through attention, through consistency, through repetition of the right words, not empty slogans, not shallow affirmations, but words that come from the depth of your being. Words that reflect the person you are choosing to become. Speak them with presence, speak them with care, speak them even when no one is listening, because your spirit is listening, your mind is listening, your future is listening. And what you say now becomes what you build next. Let your words not be reaction but declaration. Let them not reflect your past but shape your future. You say, I rise today with strength, not because you always feel strong, but because strength is your direction. You say, I am focused and steady, not because your mind is already still, but because you are choosing stillness in the middle of movement. Self-command is not perfection. It is presence. It is the daily practice of speaking the truth of your power louder than the voice of your fear. And the more you practice, the quieter fear becomes. The more you return to your chosen words, the more naturally they come when difficulty arises. Then, in the middle of a challenge, you do not panic. You remember the words you chose in the morning. You remember the clarity you created before the noise. And that memory becomes your fuel. It becomes your compass. It becomes your shield. This is the discipline. Not just to move through the day, but to move with alignment. Not just to react, but to respond. Not just to live, but to lead. Lead yourself first. Lead your thoughts. Lead your emotions. Lead your focus. This is how you awaken self-command. Not once, but every morning. Not by force, but by presence. Not with noise, but with clarity. And as you build this habit, as you repeat this practice, you become unstoppable. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become steady. You become a master of your own mind, and in that mastery you find your freedom. The energy you carry into the day is not something random, it is cultivated, it is chosen. And one of the most powerful tools to cultivate it is your own voice. Every morning, your mind is like soft soil, and the words you speak are the seeds. Whatever you plant will grow, whether it is doubt or discipline, fear or focus, laziness or intention. This is why what you say to yourself must not be left to chance. You must become the sculptor of your own vibration, the gardener of your own spirit. The body responds to words. The breath responds to words. The nervous system responds to words. Language is not only communication, it is direction. It is energy in motion. If you begin your day with careless words, you scatter your energy. You leak it through frustration, through self-pity, through comparison. But when you start your day with powerful inner language, your energy becomes aligned. It becomes coherent. It becomes strong. When you say to yourself, I move with purpose, your body listens. When you say, I am calm under pressure, your breath changes. When you say, I'm exactly where I need to be, your mind releases tension. These are not magic spells, they're reminders of who you are beneath distraction. Often the reminders of the potential you carry that often lies dormant. You do not need more time. You do not need more resources. You need more alignment. And alignment begins with language. Speak to yourself with the awareness that your words are shaping your future. Every phrase is a brushstroke. Every sentence is a step. If you start the day complaining, you are setting the path of resistance. If you start the day comparing, you are setting the path of discontent. But if you start the day with truth and strength, you are setting the path of power. This power does not come from pretending. It comes from choosing. Choosing to focus your mind on what uplifts, choosing to create thoughts that support your vision, choosing to no longer speak to yourself in the voice of your past, but in the voice of your evolution. When you speak powerfully, you move powerfully, and when you move with power, the world begins to respond differently. You are no longer pushed and pulled by circumstances. You become the cause, not just the effect. You become the initiator, not just a responder. Each morning is an opportunity to shift from reaction to creation. Do not wait to feel energetic. Do not wait to feel confident. Create the energy with your words. Build the confidence with your voice. Remind yourself that the external world follows the internal world. That before you ask the day to deliver something to you, you must deliver something to yourself. And what you deliver are instructions. Instructions for how to walk, how to breathe, how to carry yourself. Say to yourself, I carry discipline like a quiet fire. Say to yourself, today I create momentum by staying focused. Say to yourself, my presence is more powerful than any distraction. Do not underestimate how these statements shift your nervous system. They reduce hesitation, they create rhythm, they eliminate doubt. Even if the mind wants to argue, speak them anyway. Not because you are trying to believe them instantly, but because you are training your mind to align with who you are becoming. The athletes train their bodies. Artists train their hands. But few train their minds. And fewer still train their inner voice. But those who do walk differently, they walk with direction. They walk with depth. They walk with a clarity that does not depend on circumstances. Because they understand their energy is their responsibility, and their energy begins with what they speak to themselves. The world will offer you many chances to forget your power, many reasons to lower your energy, but your voice must be louder than the noise, not by shouting, but by being consistent. Consistency is what builds internal momentum, and momentum is what turns small actions into great results. If you speak to yourself with strength for 5 minutes and then forget for the rest of the day, you lose the power. But if you return to your words again and again, before each task, before each decision, before each challenge, then your energy becomes untouchable. It becomes sacred. This is not about pretending that life is easy. It is about deciding that your energy is not negotiable, that your internal state is not something others can steal, that your morning words are not temporary motivation, but permanent anchors, anchors that hold you steady when the world is spinning. Anchors that remind you who you are when circumstances try to define you. You are not just a body moving through time. You are a consciousness shaping time with awareness. And your words are the tools. When the voice within you becomes intentional, the world outside you becomes manageable. You do not need to control everything. You only need to control the energy you bring to it. And that begins with what you say before the day begins. Before the meeting, before the struggle, before the choice. If you wait until the challenge arises to find your energy, you are too late. But if you build it each morning with discipline, it will be there when you need it most. This is the training to become the kind of person who does not wait to feel ready, who creates readiness through repetition, who understands that cultivating energy is not once a week or when it's convenient, but every day like a sacred responsibility. You wake up, you breathe, you speak, and in speaking you align. You align your words with your values. You align your words with your strength. You align your words with the direction you have chosen. And you return to that alignment not once, but again and again. Because this is how power is built, not in single moments of motivation, but in daily practices of clarity. Say what you need to say to yourself, not to escape the moment, but to enter it fully. Not to avoid discomfort, but to carry presence through it. Not to pretend you're invincible, but to remember you're capable. Your energy is your signature. Make it intentional, make it powerful, make it yours. Each morning brings with it an invitation to return, not just to your tasks or routines, but to the foundation of your being. Before the conversations begin, before the responsibilities unfold, and before the noise gathers strength, there is a doorway to presence. This doorway does not open with effort, but with awareness. It is not unlocked by striving, but by returning to your breath, returning to your body, returning to your body, returning to the knowing that you are not incomplete, that you do not need to chase the world to feel whole. Many begin the day already running, not with their feet, but with their thoughts, chasing time, chasing approval, chasing perfection. But in the pursuit of what is not here, they forget what already is. They forget that peace does not arrive later, it is available now. That strength is not something to reach for, but something to remember. And this remembering requires no noise, no movement, no performance, only presence. To sit, to breathe, to feel the ground beneath you, to recognize that the sky does not rush to rise, the sun does not force its light, the wind does not argue with direction. Nature unfolds in still awareness. It does not resist, it does not chase, it simply honors its rhythm. And so must you. Returning to presence each morning is an act of devotion, not to the world but to your own soul. It is how you reclaim the space that life often takes. It is how you reconnect to the inner intelligence that gets drowned in distraction. There is a wisdom within you that does not speak in urgency. It does not shout. It does not beg for attention. It waits silently, patiently, until you return. And when you do, you hear it again, not in words, but in sensation, in breath, in the quiet recognition that you are exactly where you need to be, that you do not need to become anything else to be worthy of peace. Returning to presence means releasing the addiction to what's next. It means no longer measuring your value by your productivity. It means recognizing that stillness is not the absence of movement, but the fullness of being. And from this fullness, all your actions carry more weight. Your words become more precise. Your decisions become more rooted. When you're present, you no longer seek validation from the outside. You no longer try to prove your worth. You no longer fear missing out, because you realize in this moment, nothing is missing. To be present is to stop arguing with reality, to accept what is here, not in weakness, but in strength. Because only from true acceptance can you move clearly. Only from deep awareness can you create meaningful change. Anything born of resistance carries distortion. Anything born of presence carries clarity. So each morning before you step into the world, return to yourself. Do not rush into the noise. Sit with your breath. Feel your heartbeat. Watch your thoughts rise and fall like waves. Let them come and let them go. You're not the thought, you are the ocean beneath it. And in that recognition, you dissolve the fear of being behind. You dissolve the illusion of lack. You return to a space where there is no competition, no urgency, no pressure, only presence. And from this presence, you build your day, not hurriedly but intentionally, not from fear but from alignment. This is how you create from depth, how you speak with truth, how you live with meaning. You no longer react to every impulse. You pause, you observe, you choose. Presence is the soil from which conscious living grows. Without it, you are just repeating patterns. But with it, you are sculpting each moment with care. Returning to presence is not a technique. It is not something to tick off a list. It is a relationship, a daily homecoming. And like any meaningful relationship, it requires attention. It requires sincerity. It requires love. Not dramatic love, but quiet love. The kind that listens without judgment, that holds space without needing to fix. This is the love you must give yourself each morning. The love that says, I see you, I am with you. Let's begin not from urgency, but from clarity. Let's begin not from emptiness, but from wholeness. When you return to presence each day, you begin to live from the inside out. You no longer get lost in roles or masks. You no longer seek constant stimulation. You become sensitive to what truly matters. You notice the breath of the wind, the warmth of light, the stillness between sounds. Life becomes vivid, not because it changed, but because you did. You awakened your senses. You opened your awareness. You returned to the moment that was always here. This is not a distant goal. This is a daily practice, a daily gift, a daily return. No matter how far the mind wanders, presence is never gone. It waits. It welcomes, it forgives. There is no punishment for forgetting, only peace in remembering. Each morning is a doorway. Will you walk through it asleep or awake? Will you rush past it or pause to honor it? The answer shapes your entire day. When you begin in presence, you end in peace. Not because life is perfect, but because you are grounded, rooted like the mountain, fluid like the river, aware like the sky. You move with intention. You speak with kindness. You listen with depth. All because you chose, once again, to return, not just to your body, but to your being. It is the soil, the water, the sunlight. Without it, your potential withers. With it, you flourish. So begin each day not with urgency, but with a breath, not with a task, but with attention, not with a goal, but with gratitude. And let that presence carry you.